Hey guys, it's Scott, and before this great Scott Marcus topic gets going, I just wanted to say real quickly that this is a 2-week-old episode. It's about kind of sensitivity level and how, we don't have to react so harshly to some things. It was back before the vote was cast for the American election, and I just want to say that there's also some heated emotion out of me about this, and that it's still a pertinent topic, I feel, which is why I did want to get it posted. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to Great Scott Marcus here on Ramble Entertainment, a show where I get together with Mark, my best friend, and we talk about shit. We just talk about whatever we feel like talking about. And Mark, we have had some polarity over this kind of...
Focus.
Yeah, wave your hand at your camera.
Hello, camera. There I am. I'm back.
Yeah. Basically, if you go like this, it forces the camera to refocus
Gotcha.
a lot of times. I hate it when that happens too. Anyway, a lot of times we just talk about anything, but Mark, when it comes to kind of the sensitivity level of people as of late and how it really wildly fluctuates over the past, I would say 5 years, maybe more at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We're a bit polar, where you can kind of land on the side of stop being, so sensitive, and I can be on the side of well, we should think about these things, but oftentimes, no, we don't have to be so sensitive. So there's a lot of shit to cover for this topic. So let's go ahead and kick off with something like a pilgrim in an Indian costume.
Yes.
Being considered offensive. Mark, what do you think?
I don't believe it's offensive.
Not in the... God,
Here's why. I feel like in order to be considered offensive for something, you need to have some sort of negative... just some sort of negativity within you that you want to make something offensive. If that makes any sense.
Well, not
if
just that.
Out,
here's the perfect juxtaposition to that, because the Redskins football team was not made with negativity in
True,
mind.
it was not.
But what that is it is a term that does kind of engender a particular stereotype upon a particular people.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it comes to fucking history, there were pilgrims and there were Indians, and good news, they actually did come together around the time of Thanksgiving to help each other survive.
Well, not to mention, this is also on a holiday called Halloween, where you're encouraged to dress up as fucking anything you want to, just about, and obviously there's a lot of couples get together and they have couple outfits, and I mean, I don't know these people, but it's not like Hillary Duff and her boyfriend, whoever he is, were like, all right, let's start a statement and dress up as Indians and pilgrims, and we're doing it because we're gonna offend somebody. Fuck that. No, they didn't. So
their purpose wasn't to be offensive. Their purpose was just to dress up.
Dress up.
Yeah, be together as kind of a themed costume.
Yeah.
This would basically be like two people going as Darth Vader and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, or Jabba and Leia. But, I'm sure if someone went Jabba and Leia, they'd be like, oh, that's offensive to fat people or offensive to strippers. I don't know.
Not really. They're representing a overly large being from a mythical universe, and who sells drugs and, basically... stereotypes women, and they're literally representing it as it was, and as a movie that is a classic. And granted, what happened between colonizing and the Native Americans is terrible, but nothing about what they were doing with their costumes represented that.
Right.
So
I think this is silly, and another aspect of it, it's just I'm curious to if an actual Native American saw this and they were the ones that freaked out, or maybe it's just us over entitled white people that are like, that's offensive to people. That's what I'm curious at.
So along this topic, we're going to get into a lot of this, and
Mm-hmm.
I while I try to see like a lot of sides of things, I truly
Mm-hmm.
try to not, be one side of things. Be like, just stop whining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this side of it, I just can't see. Like that is just that's not even how like Indians and Pilgrims truly looked.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
that
No.
their costumes aren't like that accurate, so it's kind of just like
And,
what
all right, and if they were like at a Halloween party and he was
if they were
maybe
just
he,
regular people.
oh, no one
Like
would give a shit.
exactly. So
Well,
it's
if they're doing like offensive gestures wherever they were out in public, then okay, yeah. But being dressed up in a photo of them like just hanging out, these are outfits. Like, no, that's silly. This. Do you want to move on to the next one?
I mean, I have nothing more to say about it. I was just organizing the tabs,
Yeah,
but
no, I feel like this was just like, come on, people. There's better things to bitch about in the world. This might
so
be kind of one of them.
this would be one of them.
Yeah.
So
You can dress like how you want to dress on Halloween, but have a bit of idea, like, okay, something might not be right.
so like the article dives pretty deep into it. Basically, for a long time there have been Japanese pop stars and idols dressing as Nazis. And like you can make arguments
Jesus
that it's
Christ.
not accurate, but like there are
Well, on
just
Twitter
striking.
account, like, there's the like,
Yeah,
you probably
striking.
shouldn't put the fucking what's it called?
Well, no,
Swastika.
these are other people's Twitter accounts,
Oh,
not
no, I was looking at
theirs.
the photo up there. Well, yeah, okay.
But I mean,
I
like,
think they're
the
just
hat,
trying to
the
make a
hat,
similar.
The hat looks a little bit different. I don't think it
Yeah.
has a swastika on it. I'm gonna click on it and hope that it doesn't take us
Hope it's not
someplace
riddled with
awful.
pop-ups.
Anyway, I'm gonna go back. So,
Damn.
there is a reason that Germany, like, teaches the shit out of their history.
Yeah.
Like, and there is a reason that the Hitler mustache will likely never come back into being. There is a difference between, what was, what occurred between so like the Pilgrims and Indians came together. That was different than colonization and the expansion of America and versus the Indians. Whereas there is no other way to cut Nazis.
There's no way to be like, okay, that like it's just bad stuff. And I mean, what you just said, it's like the
hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people were cooked, gassed,
detained
lined up
against
and
their will
shot,
for no reason,
dug their own graves. Like, this shit is so I'm not going to highlight them, but one of the first commenters was talking about how he lives in Japan and how they just don't have as much of a sense of this as the rest of the world, where it's just like it's not taught as like
strictly
an issue and this kind of highlights. So what you commented to me in text about, like, man, like, people just need more common sense. And the issue, so like, here's where the world is really dividing. Like, it's an issue of, like, if it was common, then this wouldn't be happening. And it's the fact that, like, this shit is not common sense is a problem. That, like,
at least in certain cultures, like over in Japan, apparently. 'Cause, I mean, it's like I feel like you really don't see much of this around here. You definitely, I'm sure you would not see it in Germany.
It's
But then again, these are also pop stars in Japan. Like, they're famous.
I mean,
so
like,
it's
let's talk about the difference between Germany and Japan for a moment. A German court, I believe, still currently, I was reading about it some months back, is attempting to convict a former Nazi, a 90-year-old man who's basically done anyways. And in my mind, like, I get it. The man did some horrible things, but at the same time, he's done anyway.
Yeah.
90 years old. It's just, and it's so like, they take that very seriously. That, like, that was morally completely reprehensible, and that full stop, there is no bounds with which they will rid what happened of this in the world. Like they're going after a 90-year-old man. Like even in my mind, I'm just kind of like, it's kind of hard for even me to justify. And like, and it's just like that is how bad this was, and we cannot forget that. And Hillary and her boyfriend weren't making light of
Hillary Duff, that is, not Clinton.
Yeah, Hillary Duff and her boyfriend weren't making light of the Pilgrims and the Indians.
Right.
They were simply dressed up as a pilgrim and an Indian, and there is positivity there.
Togetherness and cultures coming together. And...
Exactly. And when it comes to this is making light of something where nothing morally positive came out of it. And it's just... this kind of shit existing in the world does, like, frighten me.
I mean, it's... No, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, obviously, like we just said, you know, Germany takes it seriously. Japan's obviously a little more lax on that whole thing. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here. This isn't what I believe, but I'm almost wondering if maybe what their intentions were is like, well, if we dress like Nazis, then the whole Nazi thing will be kind of put behind us. I don't know, or it won't be as offensive if it's out in public.
Here's what seems to be a lack of, no offense, reading on your part.
Well, I'm saying that's not what I believe. I'm just wondering if that's what they're...
Here's why I would say no to it. Because they were like, where was it? They reference Uncle Hitler. Uncle...
Wait, there it is.
Right there. Yep. The young idols drew pictures of the Nazi dictator and referred to him as Uncle Hitler.
Well,
there's no message here of like know your history.
Yeah.
It's a lack of teaching kids morality because children need that kind of direction, and to me I see a lack of it when I see something like this.
That's what it says is like, in the past, Asian pop groups have gotten in trouble for wearing Nazi-inspired uniforms. Here, and here. It's just like,
yeah.
So Jesus Christ, like this is not uncommon, which is bizarre.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I recall another instance where you had texted me, and this was right when my whole thing started. After school, there was a skeleton hanging from a noose in someone's tree, and I forget how it came to light. Maybe it was in your local news.
I think so.
Someone was talking about, someone brought up that like a friend of theirs or a family member had the misfortune of hanging themselves, and there's nothing to make light about there, but when someone puts up a decoration like that, which is a kind of a
it's a Halloween decoration,
a picturesque image within human history, pirates, and just kind of again the concept of horror within Halloween, they are not assaulting people who hang themselves. This is evocative imagery that has been tailored from colonial times, when that was the punishment for particular crimes, from times in Europe.
It was just a style of execution.
Yeah, like these people weren't doing that back in history.
Right.
Hundreds of years ago, because they were making fun of people that were hanging. I understand that what that person is going through is something hard. However, I do think that we need to be a bit more careful where we attribute fault and where grief or a need to solve problems is placed.
Yeah.
We can't place these things in the wrong
people
places.
just don't know. I mean, okay, so like that story that you're talking about, I mean, it was about a Halloween decoration. You know, again, we're talking about Halloween here, and it's hard to... Everyone's got something about them, a event in their life that was always going to probably strike a certain chord. whether it was a family member that was shot or brutally strangled or a car accident or something where you're just like, ooh, that hurts a little bit. But at the same time, when you have a situation like a Halloween decoration that is just a skeleton hanging, I think people need to kind of put aside their personal grievances to be like, that's offensive because I knew someone that killed themselves by hanging like that, because the person setting up that Halloween decoration really doesn't, that's not their intent, to try to, strike a nerve with somebody that just went through a traumatic incident.
Nope.
It's kind of like action movies, man. There's all sorts of bad shit that happens in, that movies go on. It's just like, and if you go into a situation like you're emotionally, now I'll say emotionally unstable, but you're going through emotion of some sort. You're not going to want to go to an action film where people get shot up after your cousin or whoever just got shot.
We are in a weird time of the world.
Yes.
And I think it's very important that a lot of us don't have to have the misfortune of living the latter half of our lives in turmoil. And
there's enough chaos that happens anyways,
Exactly. And we need to be more willing to not let these things bother us so much.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that a man is protesting a rally peacefully, or at least reportedly peacefully, is not a reason to shout gun.
I was trying to find a video of that happening, and I could not find one. I saw this interview, but I did not see...
there are plenty of sources that are saying it happened, and they're reputable sources. So
it happened.
It's not like reporters are just like, hey, let's report that somebody shouted gun. Like, we live in a world filled with fucking cameras. Everybody has a camera, and there are microphones everywhere. There aren't hundreds and thousands of people going around just making shit up. Eventually, at least one person would speak up and be like, hey, this is bullshit. This is, here's the proof that it's all being made up. I have a camera and a microphone. Sit down with a person that you have conflict with. Take a breath and get to know them and understand them and the why of the thing. Don't just be offended. Don't here's where I step in on the side of stop being so sensitive. These people are being so sensitive to the point that they are attacking other people simply because we are allowed to have different views. That is wrong. That right there is wrong. The fact that you think that other people cannot express something other than what you believe.
Yeah, that's...
Fuck.
That is a big issue. And I think right now the political, what's going on with our politics right now is a giant example of it, where basically people... just people in general, it's like we all have our certain morality codes, and what we believe is right, may not be right for somebody else. But what sucks nowadays is it's like when we have that
I am a person, you're a person. I have people that love me. I have an animal that loves me. You have parents and friends that love you, and to villainize each other like we have been in this political season is truly bullshit.
Just because someone doesn't have the same views as you doesn't make them wrong. That's the thing that we've got to kind of ingrain in our head, and keep an open mind about it, which I've been really trying and actively doing, and I'm kind of proud of myself as of lately.
It's bullshit that people are villainizing cops. It's bullshit that people are villainizing black people, minorities. It's bullshit that white people might be villainized.
We absolutely are.
We are people, and it's not that there shouldn't be these divides just because there are differences in skin or profession or income. If there are differences in culture and opinion, because those are the real differences, and those should be sat down and talked about, and shouldn't be perpetuated.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm a bit on a fucking pedestal here, but like I want to talk to the person who thinks that that is wrong, that like we shouldn't be sitting down and talking about this,
Right.
and like trying to find the solutions, finding the middle ground where we can both stand together. Why that is wrong. Why? Like
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd love to find whoever, would believe about that Hillary Duff situation, finding that offensive. I would like to know why they think it's offensive. Like, and here's the reason. I'm like, okay, well, I understand that reason, but do you ever think about maybe you're just reading a little bit too much into these things? Like, I'm open to hear a reason for, why that's offensive. I just.
And I want to bring up that like we kind of did talk about this the one time where it's like some people get so into a situation that they don't take a breath. We when we
or
were
they have nothing
here
to do with it.
when we were here together, like
Mm-hmm.
like just being so reactionary. Like sometimes I just want to, like if I could just reach out and like put my hand on their shoulder if they're comfortable with that and be like, it's okay. Like it's there, like I've got people who care about me and like I hope you do too, because because like dude, I don't care what your opinions are. I give a fuck about the people around me. And that
Breathe.
these divides are scary. And we used to just be okay with them. We used to be able to sit down. Republicans used to be able to sit down and talk together.
Oh yeah. There was a, I don't know if you call it this. There was going around the interwebs. It was George H.W. Bush wrote a letter to Bill Clinton when he was going in office, and just like, you're our president now. Like, this is like, and basically just saying is like, this is a hard job, but you can do this. Like, and that was so touching. Like, that was a Republican, George H.W. Bush, to Bill Clinton, just saying, you're our president now. Like, you got this, man. Like, that, what happened?
Competition just seems to get so in the way these days.
Oh, for sure.
Where like the winning, like you listen to, again, I try to be like bipartisan on this, not partisan, where like I look at
try to see both the sides being
I try to see Trump's side, but he has such rhetoric of winning, like it's all about winning, and like I don't accept loss. Like, no, that's not the point. Like,
that's not okay either.
Politics shouldn't be about winning. It should be about trying to find what's going to be best for a majority moving forward, while still trying to help those who don't understand and don't want changes to possibly understand change, or to not change and accept that where we stand now is better than what some people want.
But great again used to be whatever that fucking was.
Like it's dude, it's scary, and like it's the same amount of, well, okay, it's not the same amount of scary as like the Hillary Duff thing, but like getting offended over that, like you gotta ask yourself, you gotta sit down and ask yourself, like, why are you feeling so offended? Like there are so many more important things that people are not being offended by. Like,
well, and chances are people are being offended by things that have absolutely fuck all to do with them. Like, there's no reason why a suburban white male should be offended by Hillary Duff's costume, but I'm sure there are. It's like, you don't know these people. Did they try to offend you? Did they try to attack you? And like, I think it was like, I love comedians for this reason. They're so open, and I think it was like, is there Dave Chappelle, or it might have been Chris Rock? I don't know. There's a black comedian. I forget what he basically saying is like, I cannot be offended unless I know you. Like, that's such a brilliant thing to say. Like, if I want to personally attack someone and offend them, then I can do it because like I'm not going to, but like because I personally know them. But like some asshole on the street like tells me something or says something to me like I don't know you, like fuck off, like that's not gonna offend me. Like you don't know who I am.
Somebody
you know?
bumps your shoulder on the sidewalk, you don't get offended. You either say sorry, excuse me,
Yeah.
and if they have a problem with that, then they're the ones having a bad day.
Exactly.
There's something wrong, and you should just move forward because you were big enough to, or you were aware of yourself enough. You were calm within yourself enough to say that it's not that big a deal. It's, like it's still there. It's
your shoulder
fine.
didn't fall off. He didn't like spit in your face and tell you to fuck off. Like it was just like it was a random occurrence, and like that's kind of a minimal thing we're talking about. But like that kind of goes into this. Like this was a guy exercising his First Right Amendment, and people freaked the fuck out.
They started grabbing him and grabbing his sign, according to reports, and then they wrestled him to the ground, and someone put their knee on his head.
Yeah.
How is that necessary?
Did you I think it was like yesterday or maybe the day before, Obama was at a rally, and there was a Trump supporter was there, and he was, you know, waving around a Trump sign, and everybody in the crowd was just like, oh, boo, like, you motherfucker, like, get out of here. And then Obama was just like, no, like, one, he's exercising his First Right Amendment, free speech. Two, he was, and this is what Obama was saying, he's like, two, he was dressed in military apparel. He's like, he's probably you know, from one of our armed services, which we respect that. He's an elderly man, respect that. And then he said, like, people started, like, he's like, and don't boo, vote. And it's just like, that's such a simple concept. Like, there's no reason to resort to violence when, like, this was a Trump supporter at an Obama Hillary Clinton rally, and Obama was just like, it's fine. Like, we should respect him and what he's doing.
Yes,
there's no reason to get violent
or negative, or just be so negative about things. Like, of course you're allowed to be negative, but like, you have to be in control of that negativity. Otherwise it consumes you and makes you attack people.
Well, and then Trump said after that, like, he was referencing, he had a rally, it was like, Obama was shouting at that man, he was yelling at him, and if it was me, they would have called me unhinged. It's just like, Jesus Christ,
they have
dude.
Recordings, like, there are cameras and microphones that show us exactly how these people act. And
that's just that fear mongering rhetoric that's been going on both sides, to be honest, like on between Trump and Hillary.
No,
it's on both sides.
But I mean, like, unfortunately, this is where I do cross the line, and it's just like Trump's side is just so negative. Whether you place it on support at his rallies where they're attacking fellow Republicans,
or like, reporters,
yes, and making fun of people with excess weight, or people who just aren't attractive in their
disabilities
opinion. Disabilities. And here again, so for me, I want to be very clear about this, because I might have some bias about this. On Colin and Greg Live, I heard about this controversy with RimWorld that, in my opinion,
was that like controversy in quotes?
In my mind, it's in quotes. I mean, like, it's right there. It's not in quotes, but it's just like it seems like such an artificial thing that just shouldn't fucking exist. Basically, I'm going to read this because I do think the details are important, but the link will be in the description of this video. All is not well in RimWorld, the popular space colonist simulator released in July. Yesterday, a rock, paper, shotgun writer, which I do find rock, paper, shotgun to be a decently reliable source most of the time, but this is disturbing.
And so it's like a tech site or a video game site?
It's a video game site.
Okay.
Opened up RimWorld's code and published some surprising revelations about how sexuality factors into its gameplay. RimWorld's developer, in response, has gone on a tear, denying that the game mirrors the sexist expectations of romance. A game with code trying to potentially mimic real-world scenarios, and even if it's not, it's creating its own world. Anyway, and I also want to be clear, moving forward in this, at least my stance on what developers are doing, or even what a fucking person in design is doing, or what a person who makes YouTube videos is doing. I'm thinking about the layout. I'm thinking about just showing you guys a Warframe gun. I'm thinking about the audio quality, the video quality. Like, I'm not thinking about my own personal beliefs. I'm not thinking about, like, deeply interpreted messages about the subtlety of the design aspects.
Right.
I'm just thinking about, like, good design and making it look pretty. A developer is thinking about making systems run together, making graphics look good and aesthetically pleasing. Like, there are those that, yes, try to put beliefs within their messaging, but, like, this is fucking code. This isn't something that was like, hey, you know, fuck women, or fuck men. Like, it was...
Scroll down just a little bit more.
Let me finish reading this, and you might see a different side of this than I will, but RimWorld is only in early access, but it's already a hit on Steam. In the space sim, players construct and manage a space colony. The goal is to develop the colony, which entails, well, romance between the colonies, called pawns. Pawns all have distinct personality traits, and of course pawns can be interpreted. To me, that's not maybe the best choice of identifying colonists, but let's continue. Like an aptitude for botany, being a night owl, masochism, or homosexuality. RimWorld's presentation of queerness is what's on the stand.
So it seems like it's like The Sims, but the end result is you're trying to get these people to bang each other.
Yes, and what the person from Rock, Paper, Shotgun seems to want to point out is the way in which the sexuality portrays between men and women. In an article headlined How RimWorld's Code Defines Strict Gender Roles, writer and academic Claudia Lowe dug into RimWorld's code and found that there are no bisexual men, only gay or straight men. There are no straight women, only gay or bisexual women. Women are also 8 times less likely to hit on men. A few other items, like how men are less attracted to older women, but not the reverse, and how physical beauty is the only measure of attractiveness, stood out to Lowe. These things are real-life issues that can negatively impact real-life people. To Lowe, it was strange for a sci-fi game developer to intentionally insert them into his game. She wrote that RimWorld's model of sexuality is flawed in a way that perfectly mirrors existing sexist expectations of romance with such specificity that it is hard to view it as unintentional.
I think that's all that we need in here.
I'm gonna continue.
Okay.
There is a reason that I want to continue, and because I know there was a response from the developer somewhere in here, and let me see if I can hurry past it. So, RimWorld's developer didn't take Lowe's article very well. In a comment below the piece, developer Tynan Sylvester, geez, he might as well go hang out with Butterscotch Cumberbun. And I need to see that movie. It sounds like a real critical darling. So, described Lowe's article as an anger-farming hit piece. And I don't think that's a good way to try to counteract an image that someone is trying to potentially paint here.
Basically, this developer just went on defensive mode ASAP.
Ever since... in Rock, Paper, Shotgun's comments and on various RimWorld forums and social media, Sylvester has been defending RimWorld's code and what it means for pawns' expressions of sexuality, and in the process, his belief system. Citing research he'd done for RimWorld as well as his personal observations, Sylvester said that bi-curiosity is quite asymmetrical between sexes. Bisexual men are uncommon in his experience, and from what he's seen, end up only dating other men. According to research he cited in his comment, many women who identify as straight are often actually bisexual, and according to anecdotal evidence, many men who identify as bisexual are often actually gay. So let's real quickly, this is what I want to dive into. So it's an actual study. This is where it gets important.
Was this the link that he was citing?
Yes. Otherwise, Kotaku isn't doing their job, citing proper resources.
Right.
So there are, so
basically,
I don't know this man.
Right.
I don't know the woman at Rock Paper Shotgun who did this piece. But when I think of designing sexuality, no matter what, you or myself, we're always going to have subjectivity on this matter because you can't help it. No matter what, you have some experience within that realm of thought. Should he have brought up so much of his personal views on it? Probably not. Nonetheless, so with some degree of attraction, both males and females might be drawn into heterosexuality if they have favorable options in the heterosexual partner market. Basically, the study, at a minor glance, seems to suggest that he used at least one proper source.
Right.
And you read a thing, and then you go back to designing your thing.
That's design process. I mean, if you're designing something, whether it's a house, a game, fucking menu for a restaurant, you do precedent research. You have a problem, and then you say, okay, I need to look at something that exists so I can design around this problem. And it seems like that's what he did. He found a source and was just okay, I'm going to design my game algorithm. I'm designing, that's the keyword, my game algorithm to reflect this precedent research that I just did.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to Kotaku because
I
don't want to be too political now.
And granted, it's going to be impossible for him to design a game to map out every instance that's humanly possible, because guess what? It's not human.
And also, the purpose of the game isn't about the sexuality between the colonists. That is another just system within the game. If the game was about hey, it's important that we're more accepting of different sexual orientations, then yes, I think that this is important. But this seems like a piece that is targeting a subject matter that is important right now, but applying it to something where the subject matter really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe that's my bias, because I agree with Colin and Greg's assertion.
What this reads to me is parallel to the Hillary Duff thing. It's just he did this thing. He made this game and he put in this code, and this is what he designed it as. And it took someone to actually look for something offensive which is bullshit. The reporter opened up the code. Why? That's not what, this game is for enjoyment. Maybe this person was well, this doesn't fit my sexual orientation, so I'm curious about it. And if that's the case, then say it. But it doesn't need to be a thing.
You could bring up that it's very interesting and that it maybe reflects on the current world too much. But that doesn't mean that there then needs to be an interpretation of what that game is doing is wrong.
Right.
If you want to fix this issue of how sexuality is portrayed within the world, then go assert that within situations where men are again, I'm not trying to say Trump is wrong, but his the way he talks about women is a problem. And when you see men do that, like have a thought piece about that, not about like a Steam early access game.
Yeah. Well, I guess the interesting thing, this is I try to play devil's advocate here too, is is this a sci-fi game? I believe it said, right?
Yeah,
is it futuristic of any sorts?
It's basically about colonizing.
Okay,
it's just here. I'll see if I can pull up.
I guess what would be interesting, is just like he did his research, which that is smart. You should do research anytime you're presented with a problem and you're trying to design something. But I think what's interesting is that he used real world research and implemented towards what I'm believing to be a futuristic sci-fi game, where if it's a futuristic sci-fi game, then I would imagine that most precedent is nearly irrelevant. I mean, maybe like he wanted something to work off of, and maybe that's it. Maybe this, if it's in beta, like it's still in progress. Maybe that wasn't the final code of the sexual orientation of the characters in this game, which, by the way, are called pawns. I think that's interesting to be brought up because a pawn is essentially a piece at your disposal. It's almost.
But that again returns to like even a chess term, like. Yeah. You're playing a game. This like.
Well then, so what? Like. It's
so almost RimWorld. RimWorld is a construction and management simulation video game currently being developed by Ludium Studios. Now, it's fair to point out that on a Wikipedia article, sometimes it might be a bit more controlled by a developer. Yes. Nevertheless,
it shouldn't be, but
it was initially released as alpha software for Linux, Mac OS X, and Windows on November 4th, 2013. On July 15th, 2016, the game was released on Steam Early Access.
Expanded colony, survivor spaceship crash. Infrastructure was secured. This is me reading the article.
Read out loud. There are people watching, Mark. The main objective of the game is to expand a colony made by the survivors of a spaceship crash. When enough resources are produced, the player can escape the planet. The game has a top-down, two-dimensional view. The story of the game is generated randomly by an AI storyteller. Storyteller's plot. The plot revolves around several in-game characters who have landed on a stranded planet when their own spaceship crashed. At no point has there been anything about, like, gender equality or gender inequality. In fact,
this is not a game about that.
So I don't want to get too in the weeds here when it comes to the technicalities of survival of a race. But humankind has done some damn dark things to stay alive. You look at something that has come up often as of late for, I think, the wrong reasons. When we dropped the nukes on Japan, it was because we didn't want to go to that country and lose millions of people and them lose millions of people and potentially have to wipe out an entire culture of people because they were willing to fight to the last man, woman, and child. And, like, survival is dark, and, I think that's a lot of what it comes down to.
The problem is what's going on. If this game is all true about, colonizing and reproducing, the problem is that to be biologically fit means to procreate, which is what this game seems to be about. And I'm wondering, like, if he, like, maybe tried this software with just, like, straight men and straight females just to do that, but it ended up being a boring game. So basically adding these sexual orientations was a challenge to the game.
If there are potentially too many men and women who pair but can't reproduce offspring, that could potentially be a problem, especially if the technology isn't there for them to share what is needed to produce offspring, and that might be a fail state. And again, like, it just seems like such a deep and almost reaching argument. Again, this kind of idea of reaching comes to mind.
What
Use your words.
If that was his intention, you know, like to make a game basically on procreation and surviving by spawning children, and straight man and straight female was just too easy, and implemented other orientations as a challenge, then I think what he should do in that case, if this is what he did, which I don't know, would be to include every other sexual or gender orientation, you know, with, what do you say, there's no bisexual men in the game. Like, probably should put
there's no bisexual men and there's no straight women.
Yeah. Like, he should have put them in there if that was what he was trying to do, was try to make a challenge to it. However, I don't believe that this is worth getting controversy over, because he did the research.
It might not have even been quote unquote research. Oftentimes, like, it's too easy to just be like, I read this article, I like this article, I'm going to go with that, and that was my research. Like, I've run into so many fucking students who did that, you know, in college, who were just like, oh, I did research. You read for 10 minutes.
One article.
Yeah, like, and if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. But, like,
because this is also his artistic interpretation of his own game.
Yeah, like, it's not like he's not allowed to, you know, apply gender however like, there's no law. There is absolutely no law that says he can't do that. But at the same time, like,
it's still artistic representation. Like, you don't, like, you can go see the Mona Lisa and you're not like, that's sexist because it's clearly a woman, or is it a male? Like,
should it have been applied equally? Should it have been there are straight, bisexual, and gay on both genders? Maybe.
I think, sure, why not? Like, I don't see that being a problem, but this is more of a problem, that there's a problem that is a problem.
Wow, that was awful. It just seems like it could have been a lot simpler of a question raised, instead of this, oh, this is totally sexual inequality.
Agreed.
No, it could have just been like, hey, can't there just be, like, all three for both men and women?
Exactly.
You know,
like, this could have been
straight, gay.
A closed letter to the developer saying, hey, so I dug into your code, like, why is this? And he could have a personally reasonable explanation, or maybe that happened. Who knows?
And when it comes down to that, it doesn't seem like it. She seems like she was pretty open about what she wanted to say about this. That's true. and it, for me, when I read that, I do come back to this. I want to say inherent bias that I got from watching Colin and Greg interpret this, where it's just like, this does seem like a needless kind of offensive, where somebody's just like, I feel offended and I'm going to speak out about it. Like,
well, and she had to dig pretty deep to find that offense.
She went into the code. Like,
exactly. Like, that's not something that an average, at least not that I'm aware of, like a reporter should do. Like, if you're a game reviewer, you should just review the fucking game. And then,
I mean, obviously the piece wasn't about reviewing the game. True. It was about what she found within the code. Not everything about games is reviewing them. But this conversation could be had so many other more pertinent places. Mm-hmm. And that is where I think part of this escapes me, where it's just like, why is this pertinent here? Of all places, it would be like walking into a public library and shouting, gender equality now! Like, it just doesn't fit.
No. I'm with you on that one. It's just, I mean, there's it's not necessary. Nope. Controversy explained. More like controversy unnecessary. Go home.
And I feel like a lot of this, the developer kind of almost seeming too reactionary.
Yeah, I mean, he was,
this woman possibly being labeled as witch hunting, whether she was or not, could have simply been avoided with, hey,
question. Yeah,
I have a question, and can we sit down and talk?
Yeah, there's no need to...
And I do want to be clear about one more thing. It was noted that he was offered to sit down with Rock Paper Shotgun and have an interview. However, it would be an edited interview. So let's see. This article initially stated that Sylvester claimed that Lowe was blatantly lying about the representation of female sexuality. He actually said that in reference to the author pretending not to know things that I specifically told her. Okay, so I know in here basically that the article mentions that he was offered to sit down and have an interview.
Mm-hmm.
However, it would be an edited interview. Chances are it would be like short form where like not everything, like we can't include everything you say because those long form things can go on forever.
Nobody wants
like
to fucking read
a half hour of written out words is very hard to read. Nonetheless, like if you want to make sure you're clear, like editing things out reduces the clarity. Period.
Mm-hmm.
The end. It's the same thing with history. We can never be clear about what actually happened in written history because it is reduced. It's from the perspective of those who watched it. They don't have every angle. And these are important things. And I don't blame him for not attending, an interview that would be reduced. Nonetheless, I think he should have been more careful with his reaction. And she should have been more careful to begin with to not create what could be considered now an assault piece.
Mm-hmm. I concur with that.
So this obviously was a bit of a stirring topic, especially for me, and I want to say that is important. I'm not just going to, I'm gonna leave that in because, it is scary. It is a scary thing how people are allowing this negativity to cause brash actions as of late. People are dying. Cops are being shot, and black people are being shot. And, of course, along the way, white people are being shot, too, and other minorities are being shot, or Asian people, Mexican people, Spanish people, etc., etc. Like, it's happening everywhere, but, like, the representation of it and a lot of even the negativity out of the media, like, details are important, and I also think that, like, God, there just needs to be more dialogue. Like, this shit obviously doesn't have to be this way because it hasn't always been this way. We've transferred elections where people accept the results of elections, and our country has persisted for over 100 years now. And that should be able to continue, but instead all of this there's a lot of negativity and a lot of engendering of negative opinion that doesn't need to be there, offense taken that doesn't need to be there, and that of course construes offense taken that needs to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very weird time, and I truly hope that we can simply step out of it soon.
I think that, like you said, there's a lot of negativity in the world, and it needs to change. It'd be nice if it changed. And I think, step one to that would be, if you have a certain passion for something or you have that energy, use it to do something positive. If you believe something and you're willing to get an argument about somebody with it, then use that energy. Don't argue with somebody about it. Like, it's not necessary to tell somebody your beliefs because guess what? They're not going to change their belief system. Probably not. So do something positive about it, like start a movement.
If it's an argument, make it a calm and discussion-oriented argument where like it's about coming to terms with either what you believe and what that person believes, or maybe finding that middle ground.
It's good to be open, and I don't feel like people need to. For example, I mean, I don't know. Twice this week, I've read political posts on Facebook, and I've thought of it. I was like, God damn it, I want to say something, and I didn't because that's not going to benefit me. That's not going to benefit them.
Short form doesn't benefit anyone.
No, and it was just like I'm not going to do it because that's just a waste of time. People are going to get all riled up, and I don't want
and
what
that
I'm
was
going
actually
to say to end up portraying some sort of negativity because of what I believe or because of what somebody else believes. So guess what I did? I didn't do it, and instead I channeled that energy to do something else. Like, I don't know. I think
and that was actually incorrect on my part. Short form does help, but it doesn't help where we need to discuss. Somebody who posts something on Facebook about their political beliefs, they're not looking to discuss. They're just looking to rile.
Yeah, they're looking to try to change someone's opinion, which is not going to happen.
And what you need to do is you need to, if you want to talk to that person, if you're a friend with them, if you know them, and maybe they've offended you, that is where you have to say, I need to possibly, sit down and talk, but talk level-headedly so we can understand one another better and possibly maintain this friendship that doesn't need to go by the wayside because of someone who might change absolutely nothing. There is absolutely no guarantee that either of these fucking candidates are going to do anything. No guarantee whatsoever.
Well, yeah, I mean,
the people around you who have a more immediate effect on your life are more important than the presidential candidates. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, for sure. And I believe that, again, if you have something you want to stand for, whether, for example, abortion or something, if you're against abortion, if you're for abortion, and you're willing to get in an argument with it on Facebook, don't fucking argue with somebody. Put that energy towards different causes, support that cause, whatever it is. Donate money or donate your time to a shelter or to clinics or whatever, that's infinitely better than trying to change someone else's opinion that's not willing to change their opinion.
There is complete reason for realistic arguments, of course. However, you have to portray them as being realistic, not excessively negative, not excess, period. Don't go to excess. Be the reasonable person within the room. Be the calm person, because all of the eyes are on the angry person, but at the end of the day, the person who flourishes afterwards, and the reason that the media isn't being unfair. In my opinion, the media isn't being unfair and not representing Donald Trump. What they're doing is they're simply observing and saying, well, he's kind of, he's interrupting a lot and he's acting like an ass and he's saying kind of racist things, and she's being... Yes, Clinton was reactionary too and did interrupt, and I acknowledge those points, but at the same time, most of that shit rolled off her like raindrops off a duck. It's... it just and of course they talk about that because that is how she portrayed herself the majority of the time. And when you portray yourself like that, your points come across more clearly.
Yes.
And when you listen to the other person, when you listen to the points they have to make and interpret them properly, and when you don't interpret them properly, seek clarification, you come across as a calm, cool, and I really mean that, a cool fucking individual.
It's been kind of helping me with it lately, and I really believe this is, I think, because I've been meditating a lot, and I really think it's kind of helping out with that. A couple months ago, before I'd done that, fuck yeah, I would have posted my replies and gotten in heated debates. And then since then, I've just kind of take the time and just think mindfully and say,
outlets need to be healthy, man. And that's kind of even something I found out about myself with PvP. I was more aggravated in PvP because of the way people would just play to win or just want to do some lewd things like teabagging or things like that in game, and it would just be aggravating. But instead, you gotta know what sets you off and what maintains your cool. More I've been doing more stretches to help with my legs, my leg pain, both of my legs, and reducing that pain level and not doing things that increase that pain level, like tense PvP matches, has helped immensely.
This was good.
This was cathartic.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning again that, once again, this is just a conversation between Scott and I that we decided for some fucking reason to post on the internet. Whether you listen to us or not, that's on you.
Yes, if you actually want to talk to us, then I come back to this word of the onus. Guys, take the responsibility to talk to us. Yeah. Don't tell us why we're wrong. No, opinions are not wrong. They're simply opinions. And yes, there can be things that in them are maybe factually incorrect, that are contrary to your opinion, but contradictions don't make things wrong. It just makes them contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. It is good for us to sit down and talk to you, to talk together, and to really just have conversation, as opposed to, oh, your opinion's different than mine, you're disrespecting me, like that makes you wrong because your opinion's different than mine. No, it just means that we have different opinions. But seriously, I got emotional over it because I mean it. You're a fucking human being, and you have people that you care about and animals around you that you care about, and I care about you because I want to hear your opinion, because it matters. It really does, even if there might be some things that are scientifically incorrect or even religiously incorrect. Maybe things, in my opinion, are religiously incorrect, but that is okay, and we can share those things and talk about them, and that is what's better. If you like what we had to do here, do the thing. And people of the internet, get out there and be more realistic, be more positive, control the negativity. The negativity is okay. It's okay. But it's got to be in control to show those that require the negativity how to change.
Without negativity, there is no positivity either. So
exactly.
It's going to be in the world, but if you focus on the positive side of things, and since this is the last recording before the official election, go vote. Anybody, just do it. I don't care who you're voting for. Just fucking do it.
What matters is the vote, not that there are contradictions in opinion, not booing. Voting. Get out there.
Do good things.